if you want me to read this out again, but basically it's to receive the draft budget spreadsheet and report for the 2023-24 financial year based upon continued activities and new project that the RFO has been informed about. Members should be aware that the figures given for the precept is a balancing figure at present and is not a recommendation from the RFO. Members are asked to consider what amendments and research needs to be undertaken to the draft budget before it's considered again. Budget must be approved at the very, very latest by 31st of January, but mid-January would be preferable to make sure for meeting of Dover District Council's precept demand deadline. Please note that the 2023-24 tax base will not be confirmed until January, and until then any precept calculations will be still be based on the 2022-23 tax base. Please see attachments 3A and 3B. Okay, so in 3A we've got the budget that's approved and forecast there. And first of all, I've had a question from the floor, from a member of the public from the floor, that we're going to, the financial officer said that we can actually allow. So I'm going to ask a member of the public from the floor to raise a query. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've mentioned this a few times now to the council officers, to individual councillors. I keep reading in council documents that the curfew bell ringers pay a contribution towards the supper. They don't. The council pays for the curfew bell ringers' supper. The bell ringers pay for the retirees' supper because they don't pay anything. And I'm still seeing this amount of money that we paid last year that we shouldn't have done in the budget. It's nothing to do with the budget. The finance officer has agreed we can use the money instead of trying to refund everybody to buy wine this year, which is great, that solves the problem. But I'd just like to clarify the separation between curfew bell ringer supper that the council pays for and the retirees that we pay for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment there. Okay, so item number 7, the draft budget that's been put before you, this is to consider the draft budget and to, if you have any queries or changes that you think are required or any further research that needs to be undertaken. So I'll take questions from the floor on this. I hope you all saw there was a number of changes that the responsible financial officer has made. It's a recommendation that we go for a 0 rise in precept as shown. There's been an allowance for the elections and also the VIC salaries, also a reduction in the S144 town guide, which won't be needed, an addition in the Bay Hall budget for taking on the property at Bay Hall, and also a removal of a project startup budget as well. So there's a number of items there. Hopefully you've all read the documents that the responsible financial officers put before you. Councillor Anderson.
Yeah. Well, here I am with my favourite topic, which is the Disability Access Strategy budget. And the budget for last year, or the year that we're just coming to an end of, it was 2,500, of which we spent £49.33. That was on the removal of the railing across those 2 bollards at Milk Alley, which I think was an extremely cost-effective way of improving access in the town. But next year's budget is also 2,500. So what I'm asking, and I think the finance officer knows exactly what I'm asking, is given that the expenditure is likely, if we manage to get the ramp from the key path into Ainsley Court and down so that people can move down Ives Gate. If we manage to get that, I've no idea what it will cost, but it will cost, I think, probably more than £2,500. So what I would like, if it's possible, is for the budget that has been unspent this year to be rolled over into the budget for next year, which would then give us nearly £5,000 to do what we want to do. So I'd like to hear from the finance officer as to whether that's
You've asked
possible.
me this before.
But I'd like to hear it in
Yeah.
public, so.
What I would say is, it's not a reserve, and so I can't roll it over automatically, but what you can do is request it when we start the new financial year. We will have a balance brought forward figure, and of that, there may be, plenty to use, so you can then request £2,500 or whatever
Or
figure
more.
you want from that reserve, and it would have to be agreed by council.
Thank you.
Councillor Clements?
And just to say briefly, I'm very supportive of Councillor Anderson's concerns, but I do think the right way to proceed will be to get a quote for the work and then to ask for an increase, which I would vote for.
So, Councillor Anderson, you've been given a future way of
Yes.
increasing your
yes.
budget. Are you happy with that answer?
Well, yes, if we can get things going quickly. It's been a hard uphill struggle to get anything going, but I will do my best.
Thank you very much. Councillor Franklin?
Yeah, I was just going to say about Bay Hall. Bay Hall, I don't think it needs a budget now because we're going to discuss this on the next town council week now, because we've got some money to come through, so it should be self-financing Bay Hall.
Right, that's
I know we've had some costs, but they've been reimbursed back out of the.
Yeah, I think you're correct there,
Yeah.
Depending on what council decide next week.
Except on Monday,
It may not be necessary to have that budget in,
But we can't make that
so we
assumption.
can't make that
No.
assumption at the
No, I
moment.
would agree with that, yes.
Well, yeah, we do money come through.
Councillor Gray?
I have one
Monday.
major concern, sorry,
Could you just
Yeah, that's all right.
moved on to Councillor Gray, please?
sorry. I have one major concern about this budget, which I know I go on and on about, and that is the enormous figure that appears in this budget, which is a contribution the town council has to make to the Tollbridge Fund for the shortfall in the Guildhall's funding. This figure has gone up year by year. It was £85,000 last year. This year it's budgeted at £114,000, which is nearly 40% of the precept. Now really that leaves just about enough money in the precept to pay for the salaries, and the other expenses of needing no money to provide any services to the council. And I just think that I can't really understand why the council should make the biggest contribution towards this shortfall, whereas the Tollbridge Fund makes a much smaller contribution towards this shortfall. If you read an item on the council's website about the Guildhall, it says, "To this day, the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund continues to fund the upkeep of the Guildhall for the benefit of the residents of Sandwich." Well, that is not what is happening in this at the moment. It has not been happening with the council for many years. Is that the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund has not funded the upkeep of the Guildhall. It's partly funded it, but it has received a very large contribution from the council, which leads to the council having to set a precept, which, as I'm sure you all know, is the highest precept of any council, of any parish council in the Dover district. It's also the highest precept of any council, of any parish council in the whole of East Kent. Now, I don't know whether electors in this town are aware of this, but it seems to me that we have got a situation which is out of control in terms of how this council operates. Now, I don't know what the solution is to it, but I do think that something has got to be done, and I can't see why the Tollbridge Fund shouldn't be making a bigger contribution towards the shortfall, enabling the council to make a smaller one, which might not lead to it producing its precept, but at least it would leave the council with some funds which it could provide services to the community. I rest my case.
Could I just get back to you, Karen, is that right? It's calculated on a percentage amount of how much use it is, or have you to do?
It hasn't been calculated on a percentage amount, but it has been increased over the last 2 years. It was when the precept was increased in 2020 by 25%, which was a previous councillor's idea, because the investments are not paying enough to keep the Guildford going, and they will just diminish beyond recognition if that hadn't happened.
So really what we're saying is we find ourselves, unfortunately, Councillor Gray, in this situation whereby Sandwich Town Council has this fine building in which to conduct its services and its meetings. But unfortunately, obviously, having a fine building, we've got the responsibility of the upkeep of that fine building. So this is perhaps something that the council as a whole need to look into and address.
I think I do think something has got to be done about it. I mean, it's nothing that could be sorted out now. I think we're stuck with it. It's in the budget, but I just think it's something which has got to be dealt with, because otherwise the Guildhall is becoming a black hole, and the town council is going to have to spend more and more with precept on it. The Tollbridge Fund is going to have to stop selling its investments, which will reduce its income, which makes the situation even worse.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Perhaps you could put something forward at a future council meeting.
I'm happy to think about it, but something has got to be done. But I mean, I would like to suggest that in this year's budget, the Tollbridge Fund should make a bigger contribution, even if it means it had to sell some of its investments, and the town council makes a smaller contribution, which will end up leaving some more funds in the council.
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously you can put that forward as a proposal on the budget if you want to in a minute. Councillor Graham?
Yeah, this has been known about for years, and of course what's happened in the markets. When I first came on the council, interest rates are 8 and 10%, plenty of money around. Interest rates now down to 0.5%, and yields on stocks are probably about 2.5%, where they used to be 8 or 9%. And that's why the Guildhall plan was written, because we're going to try and make, or we were trying to make this building a more commercial proposition. If you recall, you've seen the Guildhall plan, it was voted through. Unfortunately, various factors came along, such as COVID, and that scuppered it. But if we can get going again on that, the budget is still there to do that, make this into a building which produces money, then the problem is solved.
Yeah, become self-sufficient.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay then, so if there's no other comments on the budget, could I ask for proposals to go forward? So obviously, Councillor Brown,
As it is present form.
okay.
I second that.
Okay, so all those in favour of the budget, draft budget going through in its present form then? very much. That's passed by majority. So obviously, you can put something forward to main council
I probably will do
To-
at
to
some
make-
stage.
to introduce
Yeah.
some sort of change for the future, if that's
Yeah, I
okay.
will. Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
that. So, Item number 9, date and time of next meeting to be confirmed from the responsible financial officer and chair of the meeting of the Financial and General Purposes Committee. So thank you very much for attending the meeting, and thank you for your input to assist with the finances for the future financial years. Thank you for that.